This is a recording of the sermon that will be preached at North Shields Evangelical Church on Sunday the 19th of June. If before listening to it, please could you read John chapter 12, verses 20 to 32. We're going to look at three things: the question, the answer, and the response. The question. At every wedding, there will be a large number of individuals celebrating at the same time as desperately hoping that there's someone out there for them. At every baby shower, there will be women who share the new mum's excitement at the same time as wondering if there's any hope for them after 5 failed rounds of IVF. At every V-Day ceremony, there will be refugees who join us in celebrating the end of World War II, whilst wondering if the war in their home country is ever going to end. Now, sorry to start on such a difficult note, maybe even a personal note, but it's really important that we feel the emotion behind verse 20. For in verse 20, we meet some Gentiles at a Jewish festival, hoping that somewhere out there was some good news that applied to them. Just so you understand, the Passover, it was a festival where the Jews celebrated that they were God's people. It was a time when they remembered that, at the time of their great need, God reached out and intervened. These Greek-speaking Gentiles, i.e. non-Jews, these Greek-speaking Gentiles had joined the celebration, and yet at the same time, they were also wondering, is there hope out there for me as well? Is God just the God of the Jews and the religious? Have only they been singled out as loved and valued and cared for, whilst the likes of me must just sit back and watch? Is there anything more to this Passover story than nostalgia that makes religious people feel slightly better? Or does this God still intervene and offer people hope today? Verse 20. Now there were some Greeks among those who went up to worship at the festival. They came to Philip, who was from Bethesda in Galilee, with a request. Sir, they said, we would like to see Jesus. These Greeks weren't asking to see Jesus to get an autograph or a selfie. They'd heard that Jesus offered people hope, and now they were wondering if this hope was for them as well. This was the question that these Greeks were asking. This same question is the question asked by millions today. Can Jesus offer me hope? Or is this the question that everyone's asking? I mean, let's be honest. When was the last time anybody asked you, tell me about Jesus? Or, what's the Christian faith got to offer? Or, can I join you at church? This morning, people are queuing at pubs, watching videos on YouTube, celebrating the end of a hard week by playing hard at the weekend. Whereas interest in Jesus is at an all-time low. And yet, if you listen hard enough, you'll discover that people are asking the same question as these Greeks, just with different words. Here's a sample of some lyrics from some modern songs. Everybody do the no hope generation, the new hip hop sensation sweeping the nation. Give me a bottle and a gun, and I'll show you how it's done. I need help. I need help. Sadly, there will be a percentage of people at this pub this morning for these very reasons. Another song. Some stand in the mirror and wait for the feedback, saying, God, make me famous. If you can't, just make it painless. Just make it painless. People are desperate to know that they are a somebody valued. And social media platforms are where people are looking for the answer. Another song by Adele. They say to play hard, you work hard. Find balance in the sacrifice. Yet I don't know anybody who's truly satisfied. Our 21st century culture is packed with things to make us happy and keep us entertained. But even those who have everything feel largely empty. This isn't Jesus telling his disciples that people need to hear about him. This isn't a preacher telling you that people need to hear about Jesus. This is secular, non-religious, unbelieving people telling me and you, we want to see Jesus. They're just using different words to express that feeling. So what does that mean for me and for you, if you are a Christian? Firstly, note that these Greek speakers, their first connection with Jesus came through Philip, the disciple with a name of Greek origin, who was from an area on the border with Gentile territory. The same theme crops up again and again in our day as well. People's first encounter with Jesus most often comes through another person, somebody like them, somebody who they feel at ease with, someone who they have a connection with, who just happens to be a Christian as well. For these reasons, we need to be investing in relationships. Firstly, so that we can listen. What issues do they wrestle with? What questions are they asking? What words do they use to say, I need to meet Jesus, I just don't realize it yet? We need to invest in relationships, listen, and then, when appropriate, speak. How does our faith help us face these same issues? How did Jesus address the subject that they're chewing over in their head? How does Jesus bring hope into this largely hopeless world? People might not be saying, I want to see Jesus, but people are asking questions to which Jesus is the answer. We just need to get close enough to hear. So will you, over the next year, invest in getting closer to somebody simply so that you can listen? Sorry. Will you in the next month leave your conversation comfort zone and try to connect something that you're talking with Jesus Christ? So we move on to number 2, the answer. There can be nothing more frustrating than a vague answer. Do you think we should get married? I suppose. When shall we have the wedding? Later. When? During the daytime. And who shall we invite? Friends and family. What shall I wear? Clothes plus two identical shoes. I bet you feel sorry for that poor bride already. To take action, you need concrete yes or no answers, so that everything is plain and clear. And yet, in answer to Philip and Andrew's question, Jesus' answer is very fuzzy and vague. The question, can these Greeks see you? Jesus, can these Greeks come and meet with you? Jesus' answer, well, Jesus does not answer yes or no. Instead, he starts waffling on about his death, mentioning it 5 times in the next 10 verses. Then Jesus changes the subject, covering old ground by telling his disciples to follow him. Then, before the disciples have a chance to repeat their question, Jesus begins another conversation with God, praying to God mid-conversation. If you know anything about Jesus, you'd think that Jesus' answer would have been plain yes. Yes, I want these outsiders to meet with me, to hear about me, to believe in me. If you're used to listening to sermons, you'll have heard this message preached numerous times. Tell people about Jesus. Tell as many people as you can. Go do it. Do it now. And maybe that's why Jesus didn't answer Philip's question with a simple yes. For we probably all heard the facts before. God so loved the world, etc., etc. Tell people about Jesus. Rewind. Repeat. Sometimes we don't just need telling the facts. We need to understand the feelings behind the facts. And if Jesus had just replied with a yes, we'd have had no idea of his tone of voice. Did Jesus mean, yes, I want these Greeks to meet with me? Or did he mean, yes? Or did he mean, yes? Or did he mean, yeah? How much does Jesus want to offer people hope? How strong is Jesus' passion for those that you know? Jesus' tone of voice is made very clear in this reply. Very truly, I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. How desperately does Jesus want to offer people hope? Enough to die for them. There's no greater way to express your love than that. Does Jesus have a passion for all that you come into contact with? Jesus, like a grain of wheat, died to produce many seeds. In the words of verse 32, Jesus desires to draw all people to himself. You see, Jesus wasn't just answering Philip's question, are you, Jesus, interested in meeting these Greeks? Jesus is answering our question. Are you, Jesus, interested in saving the people on my prayer list? The folk in North Shields? Are you, Jesus, interested in saving the folk that I warm to, the folk that I don't, those that there would be a cost to reaching? Are you, Jesus, interested in saving those I put into the category of no chance? Jesus is very plain and clear in his answer. Now my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. No, it was for this very reason I came to this hour. Jesus refers to the hour of his crucifixion, the time when he would soon endure emotional, spiritual, and physical agony, because it was the only way that we could be saved. And, aware of the cost to himself, what does Jesus say? The cost isn't worth it. They've turned their back on me too many times. Let's not bother. The chances of a response are too low. No, Jesus' answer is very plain and clear. Now my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. No, it was for this very reason I came to this hour. The purpose of Jesus dying was to offer people hope. He didn't turn back on the idea, even though he was aware of the cost. And because the majority of people hear about this hope through other people, Jesus wants you and me to care for people the same amount. And so that takes us from the answer to the response. Jesus said, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Jesus continued, whoever serves me must follow me. To bring hope to the world, Jesus had to die. And Jesus seems to indicate that the same will apply to us. In order to share Jesus with others, you might have to die to comfort, leaving your conversation comfort zone. In order to share Jesus with others, you might have to die to pride, sharing a message that some might regard as foolish. You might have to die to time, giving up a few minutes each week to pray for unbelievers. You might have to die to some of your disposable income, investing it in the work of some mission organization. In order to share Jesus with others, you might have to die to your convenience, inconveniencing yourself to spend time with others. In order for others to hear about Jesus, you and I will have to die to something. That's why Jesus asks us all to ask ourselves this question: what must I die to in order to bear more fruit in my life? Jesus asks us to follow his sacrificial example and die to that thing. For unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Whoever serves me must follow me. That's the challenge. Please personalize it and come up with one thing that you could die to help reach non-believers with the message about Jesus. That's the challenge. Now here is the encouragement. Jesus said, "Very truly, I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." Verse 32, Jesus said, "I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." Jesus' Jewish disciples were debating if Jesus wanted to reach anybody else but them. Did Jesus also want to offer salvation to the Greeks? Jesus makes clear that he desires many to be saved. He died to make that possible. Jesus makes clear that many will be saved. After being raised up on a cross, he says that he will draw all people to himself. Not all people as in every single person, but all people as in all peoples, i.e. people from every people group on the planet. Jesus will save Jews and Gentiles, Hebrews and Greeks, people in this first century and people in the 21st century. Jesus desires to save middle class and working class, Southerners and Geordies, those with a religious bias and those with long-term prejudices and resistance. Jesus promises, "I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." These words were meant to encourage Jesus' Jewish disciples. There was not one barrier related to a person's background that he would not or could not cross. Let these words be an encouragement to me and you as well. The question, does Jesus have any hope to offer me? The answer, Jesus died so that you could have hope. And the response is that we would help connect other people with the hope that Jesus has to offer.